Okay, hey, this is Francisca and this is my mid-crisis life. So yeah, I'm really tired today. I've been doing a lot of running around. I've had a really busy day today. I feel like I've got a little bit of brain fog, but I made a promise to myself and I made a commitment to myself that I was gonna commit to making a video every day, if nothing else. And I know that when I don't keep to my commitments, when I don't keep to my promises to myself, slowly but surely I start unraveling, and I stop having trust in myself, and my body stops having trust in the things that I say and the things that I think, and then it causes me to end up in a black hole, in an abyss of pain and sadness. So for the sake of 5 minutes, I'm going to sit here and make a video. So what really has been going on today? So my son said to me today, "Oh, Mum, you always talk to me like that. Like, you don't hear it. You talk about my tone. You talk about my attitude, but you always talk to me in that tone." And I think what he means is kind of like in this indignant, kind of irritated tone of voice where there's very little patience and very little tolerance. And I know he means that because I see myself doing it as well. And I doubt that it's as often as he believes it to be, but I doubt it's as little as I believe it to be quite honest. And the thing is it's like, I know that it's likely that communication sometimes is going to be difficult anyway, because, it is a parent and child relationship, and that in itself, just creates complex dynamics between two people either which way. And then obviously, he's going through his teenage phase and he can be extremely disrespectful and incredulous, and he loves to argue back all the time. And, he is irritating in a lot of ways at the moment. Like, that's the truth. He doesn't really remember anything that I say to him. He doesn't do the things that I ask him to do unless I ask him a million times. I mean, if you're a parent, I guess I'm preaching to the choir. This is what it's like to have kids, and it becomes more amplified when they're teenagers, right? So I know that those things are there. And then I also know that, like, there's a need for our relationship to fracture in some ways. There's a need for him to want to move away from me, I think I said it before, because otherwise he'll never want to leave, right? So we have to kind of get into these arguments. There has to be this little bit of unrest between us, in order for him to say, okay, actually, you know what? I need to get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm going. Otherwise, he'd never leave. And he'd always be here asking me to make him hot chocolates and expecting dinner on the table and for me to wash his clothes. And as much as I do acknowledge that, kids should feel comfortable to be in their own home, I do also think that if there's absolutely nothing motivating them to get out of your house because it's so beautiful and easy, then that's in a way limiting their opportunities. It's kind of clipping their wings, right? So I know all of this is going on. But simultaneously, the other thing that happened today is that my brother came round. I have an older brother. And when I look at kind of the way that he communicates and the way that my mum communicates as well, there's kind of this weird level of, like, just base level disdain, right? So, for example, he knocked on the door and my mum was in the kitchen. She went to open the door. My older son ran down the stairs because he likes to open the door. And my brother came in the room where I was sitting and said, "Are you so lazy that you can't be bothered to get up and open the door? Like, did having kids make you lazy? And that's a really rude and disrespectful thing to say to someone. Like, it's actually really fucking rude to say that to someone. And little did he know that actually what I was doing at that moment in time was like finishing off a 14-page letter on behalf of my disabled adult child so that he could go to the college of his choice. That doesn't really matter, right? But I think about that, and I think about like other things. Like I said to him that I was going to take my youngest son and start running with him so that he could build up his stamina, because he's joined a football team and he hasn't played for a long time, and stamina is obviously really important. And he was like, oh, you're going to coach him? And I was like, sure, yeah, why not? He was like, yeah, that's really sad. And it's like just this kind of like, as I say, this base level like disdain for others that just runs through my family. And even when you think about our humor is all about picking on someone, taking the piss out of someone, nitpicking at someone, even if it's being done in a funny way. My mum has this habit of like saying really mean things, yeah, and then laughing, as in like, oh, but it's a joke, so it's funny. And it's not fucking funny. Like, it really isn't. And so those two things happened simultaneously today, and it kind of made me think about, you know, this idea of like generational trauma, right? And how when people talk about generational trauma, or when people hear people talking about generational trauma, most people think that it doesn't apply to them. Most people say, well, I wasn't traumatized. Like, I wasn't beaten. I wasn't starved. I wasn't, you know, severely neglected. I had clothes. My mom took me to school. Like, there was no trauma. But actually, I think that example is a really good example of how these generational patterns of being are passed down through generations. And even just something as simple as the manner in which you communicate, the energy that you have when you communicate with someone else, the perspective that you're coming from, the stance that you're taking in just your base level communication within your family, that is something that runs down from generations to generation. And even though it's maybe a very benign thing, it's not as extreme as being beaten every day or being starved. No. But actually, really, it has this insipid way of having a really big impact on a person's self-esteem, on a person's self-worth, right? And I remember being a child, and I remember feeling all the time like nothing I did was good enough. Like, nothing. Like, no matter what I did, I was always either being ridiculed or being put down or being spoken to with disdain or irritating somebody. Like, I was always doing something wrong. And it had such a profound effect on me as a young person, just growing up in that constantly. Like, this is just reality. This is my reality. This is my constant, consistent, never-ending environment, right? Where people just talk to me in this way. And it still happens now, 100%. And I'm still working on it now. You know, one of the biggest things that I'm working on is how to love myself in spite of people talking to me like shit or treating me like shit, you know? And I always think about Callum, and I think about like the fact that he suffers a lot with like performance anxiety. He has anxiety generally anyway. But a lot of it is about like, if people are watching me, when people are watching me, there's no way that I can perform at my best because there's too much pressure coming in from the outside. And I remember feeling like that a lot as well. Like, I used to sing a lot when I was younger, but I would fall apart if I had to sing on stage or in front of people, and it would be completely overwhelming. And it was because I immediately felt like the minute that there's any level of interaction with someone else, that person is automatically gonna put me down, is gonna make me feel bad, is gonna see the worst in me. It's going to see the worst in me. So therefore, either there was no point trying, or if I did try, it was completely overwhelming and I would fail anyway. And Callum kind of has the same thing. And I know that there's a lot of different variables because, he's a child who was exposed to a lot of domestic abuse at the hands of his dad within multiple different relationships over many, many years, to the point where, finally, when he was 8, the court made a decision that his dad couldn't have any contact with him, that he couldn't see him because they deemed him to be such a significant risk. So I know that there's all of that there as well, but I guess I cannot sit here and just project that responsibility onto everybody else. And I think the more that I'm here and the more that I'm in this environment, the more that I am falling victim to that same kind of energy, that same kind of like, what are you doing now? Like that same kind of negative, dismissive, always seeing things from a negative point of view, having no tolerance, no compassion, no kindness for another person. And it's something that I've not really for many, many, many years done. And it's not who I've been. So my son saying that to me today and me looking at the communication style and the functioning and the dynamics within my family and me seeing that actually this is a generational thing and that, I know that it can have such a significant impact on someone's self-esteem and someone's self-worth. I think the most important thing that I can recognize now at this moment in time is just to breathe. I know that really, 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 really helped me when I was struggling really badly with my mental health and I was just coming out of like being in a very long period of depression and like postnatal depression, and then dealing with a very abusive partner after having very serious surgery, nearly dying during my second labor. And when I was coming out of that and I was learning these kind of lessons that I'm learning, that I'm remembering now, I know that actually just taking a moment, not being reactive, not starting from a point where you're already irritated, so then if something happens you are reacting, and just kind of taking time to breathe and just taking a moment. That's it. Just taking that extra moment, just those extra 3 seconds can make a massive, massive difference, because those 3 seconds can be the difference between me being like, oh, really? Like, you've dropped that thing again, or you're doing that thing again, or can you just pick up, or whatever it is I'm saying. Those 3 seconds of just can be the difference between me not even having to say anything, just watching him, or saying it with an energy that is kind and loving and respectful, So that's something that I feel is really important that I want to get back to. And I think it's difficult at the moment because, I've said it and I've said it again, I've said it a million times. The energy here is really heavy. It's really, really dense, and it's really, really negative. And pulling yourself out of that and setting yourself apart from that while still being present in it, not putting yourself above someone else, judging that person for not having the same capacity that you have, trying to help that person, trying to safeguard everybody, trying to navigate it all, trying to regulate your own and everybody else's energy, behavior, responses, reactions. It's fucking exhausting. It's exhausting. But either way, it is what it is. So I'm just really grateful to my son for bringing that to my attention. And I'm grateful that even though sometimes I can get wrapped up in my own feelings and my own stresses and my own needs and whatever else, that I still had enough within me to be able to say, yeah, I hear you. I'm going to work on that. Like, because I don't want him to feel the way that I did in any respect. Yeah. I think that's it. Okay. 3 things I'm grateful for today. So I think that I'm grateful that my son, even though it's annoying, arguing with him all the fucking time because he always wants the opportunity to say his piece and feels that he just has a God-given right to express his opinion as and when he feels like it. And it's something that we're working on now, because it's not that his opinion isn't valid and it's not that he can't express it. It's just like, read the room, know the time, know when it's best to come back and express your opinion. If it really is that important, it really means that much, and you have a valid point, the time to express it is not when I'm telling you what to do, like, because then it's just an argument. But aside from that, I am grateful that my son and I have a good enough relationship that he can pull me up, that he can express his truth, that he's not scared to tell me what he thinks or to tell me where he thinks I'm lacking as a parent. That's amazing. And I'm really grateful for that, because it helps me as well. Just doing something. Can I come back to you?
Yes.
Thanks. I'm grateful that I now have a car to drive around, and even though today has been long because I've been doing a lot of ferrying up and down, I'm grateful that I have it. Like, man, it's such a blessing. And I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head and that it's being provided for me, and that I don't need to worry about how I'm going to pay my rent or meet my bills and all of that other adult stuff that everybody else is struggling with a lot at the moment. So I'm grateful for those things. Okay, that's all.